everybody, it's Spinja, and I'm back with one of my favorite podcasters. This is Steven from BG Cast. I heard him a couple of months ago on while I was at work. I'm sitting at my sewing machine, and I'm going down the list of I'm checking out FKN, Forbidden Knowledge News Network. If you haven't checked that out, you absolutely need to. I'm going to put a shameless plug in here as well. So Steven is part of the network, and now Don is part of the network as well. His After Dark show is on every week, and I just got news that my show is also going to be going under Don's show, so you will be able to find me in the same spot. So this is really exciting, and I just have too many words right now.
Oh, well, congrats, you two. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard to FKN. And I got to tell you, you two are a huge reason why I do what I do. And you really are. And hearing what you guys say, that it is why I do it. And thanks. I appreciate you guys really like what I do. It makes it that's the currency for me in this, most certainly.
Well, the way that you present the topics, well, the first time I heard your show, I was listening, and I'm like, oh my goodness, Dawn needs to hear this. And just the way that you presented yourself, and then you guys started talking, it's like I knew it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, like we were kind of breaking down before we started recording. I try to bring to the table an atmosphere and an environment where we're all learning together. And that's big because I might have my ideas, I might have my thoughts, my speculations, but I'm just truly in the same boat as everybody else. I don't truly know more or know any less than anybody else. So that's why I say BG Cast is a place where we learn together. Because even I've learned things during my shows. I'll be reading a certain article. I do my best to try and read every article before I read them to you guys, but sometimes, time is of the essence, and there's some I don't get a chance to read. And it's usually in those where I learn something too, along with everybody else. And I'm like, holy crap, I didn't know that. That's something new for me. And I think that's kind of the environment I want because, like I was saying to you before, like yes, I speak and I do this for people like you and I. And, like I'm done trying to wake people up. I'm done expending my energy in that field. It is a futile effort and it is a stonewall, and just trust me, don't do it. But I do want, what I say and the message I deliver to be in such a way. So if somebody who might be new to this stuff comes along, they see me and they're like, okay, this guy is breaking it down at this level. He's not making fun of people for not knowing it. He's not being mean or curt or crass or anything like that. And that's why I do it the way I do. And I appreciate the kind words. And I'm happy you two have joined everybody here at FKN on this endeavor. This is going to be really awesome.
Yeah, it's actually come full circle. Like we'll get to like we're going to talk about Kundalini yoga and a bunch of
Absolutely.
other good stuff. But it's just one more note about it. It's just really interesting about like it's come full circle for us because I heard Chris on like Chris Matthew, who runs
Mhm.
Forbidden Knowledge News. Um, I heard him on the Tinfoil Hat podcast. And so and that was when I was going through my deep dives. Like I was listening to different podcasts and seeing what resonated, and so I was fixated on that one for a while. And so I would listen, and I would hear a guest and write down their contact information and look them up, and like if they resonated. So Chris really resonated. And so then I found him on like and Forbidden Knowledge, which led me to find Karen Holton, which led me to Rob Khalil, which is who and Rob. So Karen is also on the Forbidden Knowledge Network. She has Angels and Aliens, and she also does the Quantum Guide show. Both very wonderful, excellent, worth checking out. And then Rob
Definitely.
does Typical Skeptic, and these and these are worth noting, and in my opinion, because when I started doing my like doing my digging, these are the shows that have helped answer a lot of questions and have brought me to here where I'm asking my own questions.
And I love that. And I think that's what we all kind of, strive to do. We try to find, the content and the information that resonates with us. And that was actually something, I was talking about with Chris earlier when I was on his show. Good point there. That's how you truly vote nowadays. Those are the votes that do count. So like, when you buy
Yeah.
something that you decide to use in, when you vote with your dollars, the content that you decide to intake, use discernment with that because that's a vote as well. And it is, man, and it's getting to a point where it's like people like us are going to be here very soon. Some of the only people like really trying to bring objective truth and solutions to the table, and that's kind of the playing field we're starting to enter. I hope, I do see some specks of light popping through when it comes to certain things, and that's a great thing to see. But yeah, no, we truly vote with what we watch and who we choose to listen to. So, I'm grateful you guys are a part of FKN now, and that's why I really like FKN because I'm not told what I have to say here. I'm not told what I can talk about. I'm not told, what things not to say. I'm allowed to pretty much say whatever I want and talk about whatever I want. And I think that's really where it all kind of comes down. And I think it's coming full circle for a lot of us, Spinja. I think we're all starting to hop into these roles. I think we're hopping into these roles. We're all getting we're all being brought into this place of collective alignment as well as our own subjective alignment to get ready for everything that's going to start coming, man. And I think that's the beauty in this because it's a wonderful adventure. And we met each other. We've all met, and we've connected people who, otherwise would have never gotten a chance to meet. And I think that's like a really big thing. You know what I mean? And that again is also a form of currency for me in this because, that seeing people smile and get to know each other and these faces that have also never met who are part of this big community that we're a part of, that also is currency in this for me.
Oh, that part has been so much fun. Like, like when somebody is listening to a show and they just like it's resonating and they're like, oh, you have to meet this person, and like this you guys are really going to resonate, and like the show that you did with Rob. Oh my gosh, like Rob Khalil from
That
Typical.
was a good one.
It was so awesome, and it's fun to see um different even just different podcasters like this. And this is the part, and again, another reason why I started my show is because, okay, so I'm watching you on your show present your content, and it's awesome, but I know that there's also other sides to you as well. So you do touch on some of the healing modalities that you use, but it's also, like it's not, your show isn't focused on that. So this is the part where I'm looking at, like the people that I respect and admire, and it's like I'm going to invite them on because quite often the other sides of them doesn't quite fit in with their content, but they also need a place where like it's valuable to put it out to the world. So this is the space that I wanted to create, because it's also really cool to see the podcasters in the other seat.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I love that because yeah, no, I mean, I recently in my most recent episode, I let a little bit of my raw side come out. I don't usually do it. And again, it's not because I'm trying to, I like we were just saying, it's because of the way I wish to deliver the message. However, if we're being 100% honest, I get just as frustrated as everybody else when it comes to a lot of the stuff that goes on. I get frustrated with other human beings. I have my days where I'm looking at the collective and I'm like, you all need to get your shit together. God damn it. Like, you know what I mean? I'll be looking at this, and then I'll have days where I'll like, kind of the next day I'll walk outside, go, it's kind of all perfect anyways, I guess. Like when you really take a look at it, it's all perfect. I have my moments, man. And that's one thing Chris and I were chatting about on his show earlier. The constant people getting roped back into the bipartisan illusion and things like that. And one of the biggest things that I bring up is that's one of the reasons I've kind of taken a stance back off of politics. In the very beginning of my show, I would talk about politics a little bit, but I started to kind of walk my way back from that because seeing two opposing sides vote for the same entity every 4 years, really makes you start to lose faith in humanity. It starts to kind of take you down that road. And I refuse to eat the black pill. That's just something I will not take. And so that's kind of why I had to take a step back, and I think that's kind of, a lot of us get to that point. I joke there's like stages of our awakening or remembering, it's always the geopolitical climate that throws us into it. We start waking up to all of the corrupt stuff, and then we see it goes deeper. There's these occult aspects, these spiritual aspects that start to really kind of start reigning into the nature of reality. And then you get to kind of where we're at, where we're like, okay, we're all focusing inward now. We want to create the life that we want, and we want to manifest, the what we want in this existence and in this world, because we know that in turn will also help the collective. And it's like, it's funny when you see the stages, and I see like a lot of our community each in like their own little stage of it. Some people are still caught up in the geopolitical climate and they haven't left there. And then you have some that kind of like the teeter totter back and forth. And then, like I'm kind of at the point where I use this description, this analogy now. The geopolitical climate is a very thin layer of icing on top of a much larger cake. And, I'm focused on what's on the inside of that cake now. Not just the icing. So I guess that's the best way I can put it. But I'll digress. I get just as frustrated as everybody else. I've learned to refine the frustration though over the many years I've been observing this. So
Well, it was interesting because like when like so we watched your show, and then you said something that is actually one of my personal mantras. And to the beginners out there, this is a good one that you might want to carry in your toolbox, and it is: do no harm but take no shit.
no shit.
So that's what you were doing. You were taking no shit because from what I see, you do no harm, but somebody's
Thank
going to
you.
come at you. You're going to take no shit.
There's the thing about me is like I was saying before, like, I do this for people like us. But I bring to the table, at least I attempt to bring to the table, a level of class and integrity also to what I do. And I think that's really necessary,
Yeah.
when we're talking about these things, because there's always going to be somebody that comes in and has an issue with what you're doing. I
Oh, yeah.
mean, I do I know a lot of guys, they do their podcasts high, or they do them under the influence, things like that. I don't do that. I like to, don't get me wrong, I like to have fun. Yeah, I smoke cannabis, things like that after I'm done with everything that I do. But, I like being straight as an arrow coming to the
Yeah.
table when I'm delivering this information to you guys, because it also helps our community get taken a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of sensationalism, there's a lot of freaky woo woo, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
other stuff, that comes into play with our community that doesn't make the consensual public take us very seriously at all. So that's where I come in. I try to come in as that medium. And yes, I did take that job upon myself. I did. And I did that for the reason, for the sheer fact, like I was even saying before, like, what if somebody who's just getting all into this comes and he finds me? He's finding
Yeah.
somebody who's at least, operating at the highest quality human level he thinks is the right way to do this. And that's it, man. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't take shit, man. And I joke and I say this, like, you have a choice. You can either have the kindest, most lighthearted individual you've met in the entire world, or you can have the most ruthless son of a bitch you've ever met in the entire world. It is up to you. And that's kind of where I'll leave it at that.
I love that. I love that. So, let's get into Kundalini yoga. So,
Yes.
first newbie question. What's the difference between Kundalini yoga and yoga? Or is there another title for yoga? Or yeah,
So
we're at the ground level here. So
So yoga, what's funny about the term yoga? We're constantly in a state of yoga, whether we call ourselves yogis or not. We are yoga is pretty much existence, is consciousness, is life. If you look at the eight limbs of yoga, you will see that a lot of these, not only do we undertake and we start doing when we embark on our path of spiritual evolution, but a lot of this we do in our day-to-day lives. So, like, yoga is a very interesting term indeed to me, because it's yoga could mean many things, but we're going to be talking about yoga as we know it. And so there's a huge difference. There's not, I'll take that back. Not a huge difference, but there's a difference between what you would call Kriya yoga and asana yoga. So actually, you do asanas in Kriya, but it's the way you do them that makes it different from the typical, what you would see vinyasa or ashtanga or things like that, which you would call a lot of the more common yoga modalities that are used nowadays. So how Kriya yoga, that's essentially what Kundalini yoga is. It's a form of Kriya yoga. And Kundalini yoga actually came into fruition in 1960 by Yogi Bhajan. He basically put a different spin on Kriya yoga and with more of a lot of the mystic Sikh concepts of certain things into that. So essentially, Kriya yoga has been around for a long time. Nobody exactly knows when Kriya yoga was created. It was an ancient art, very ancient. I'd even go along and say it's an ancient spiritual science. And there was a yogi who eventually brought it back into fruition in the 1800s. I don't remember his name off the exact top of my head, but he apparently was 264 years old. And he ended up bringing Kriya Yoga to these gurus who were sitting in, I think, just outside of the Himalayas in India. He brought the Kriya Yoga, the art of Kriya, to these gurus. And so that's eventually where Kriya started to evolve. Asanas are an aspect of it as well. I guess really one of the biggest differences, I guess we could say, I'll digress, is between Kriya or Kundalini yoga and the common yoga modalities that we use, like Vinyasa and Ashtanga, is Kriya is I'm trying dynamic movements as opposed to where typical yoga like vinyasa, you're holding poses for a long period of time. You'll be holding a pose statically. Kriya, you might be doing a pose, but you're moving dynamically with the pose. So, like a good example is if you're doing a vinyasa or an ashtanga class and you do cat cow, which is where you do your spinal flexing. In vinyasa and in ashtanga classes, you do that movement very slow, right? You'll inhale real slow, flex your spine, exhale real slow. But in Kriya or Kundalini yoga, you do it more dynamically. You're more like,
oh,
yep. So like you're kind of doing this dynamic breath work and you're dynamically going through the asana or the pose as opposed to just holding it and going slow and statically. And what this does is it increases oxygen intake throughout the practice.
mhm.
And what this will do, another word for oxygen is prana, the universal information. There's five different types of prana. But the two most important two that we have to balance are prana and apana. And so with this dynamic breath and this dynamic movement does, that's a little bit different in my eyes as opposed to what a lot of the vinyasa and the ashtanga classes do. It gives you more of that oxygen uptake. You're intaking more of this prana, this universal information. And as you continue to go through these poses and you intake this universal information, you're going to start to notice it. Like if there's any type of yoga, I will say that you will notice the effects immediately. And most certainly in your first session, it's going to be Kriya or Kundalini yoga. There's just something very special about it. So that would be like the first difference is as opposed to now you do hold poses sometimes with long deep breaths and in Kundalini yoga, but it's not as frequent as you do with like vinyasa or Ashtanga yoga. So that would be the first difference. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
No, I'm just the way that you're describing it, it would almost be so um I've practiced martial arts. I'm actually a brown belt in Show and Rue. And so we have katas, which, like it's a series of movements. It's almost it's the best way I can describe it. It's almost like a dance. Like I compare
Mhm.
it to I'm gonna age myself here. I used to line dance. I
It's all
like
good.
yeah, I got sucked into the achy breaky. I wanted to do that. They didn't teach until about 8 weeks in, so then I was hooked. But that's how like that was kind of like the basis. So when I was doing my katas, it was kind of like the same thing, like the different movements. So would that like would Kundalini yoga like is it sort of like it's like certain movements and you just kind of move in like flow into it? Is
So very
that
so yeah, very similar like that too. So it's so one of them actually like a really I guess very simple one I can show you right now would be a it's the heart chakra activation kriya. So you kind of sit here and you get your arms at 90 degrees. You remember when I told you we were talking before when you get them at 90 degrees, we're working with the heart meridians. And then you sit there and then you will focus your eyes on your third eye and you'll inhale to the left, exhale to the right, inhale to the left, exhale to the right. So it's almost like you're doing like, yes, you're flowing in the movement, but you're doing it in a dynamic way. And that's almost yeah the best way I can describe it. The other big difference that between like things the common yoga modalities like Ashtanga and Vinyasa and Kundalini is Vinyasa and Ashtanga don't teach you about the chakra locks, and I think that those are a very, very important aspect of yoga that I think a lot of the common modalities don't even cover. They don't even cover the how certain poses affect certain chakras and things like that. Like, everybody knows about eagle pose, right? Like, it's where you have your arms like this and then you cross the leg over. Everybody knows that is just eagle pose, but eagle pose works with the ajna chakra. It works with the third eye chakra. So yes, if you're trying to balance this chakra, you could potentially do a set where you do hold eagle pose for a certain amount of time to work with that. And so I think that's one thing that is a huge difference between the common yoga modalities and things like Kriya and Kundalini is there's a almost I wouldn't say it's devoid of its spiritual origins, but they aren't as emphasized as I believe that they should be when we're talking about that. And the chakra locks are what ultimately help move the energy up your spinal column into your crown chakra and into your, I believe, the hypothalamus cavity, where all of that's located. And it helps the cerebral spinal fluid too. This is what it is. So, I'll go into the chakra locks real quick, but you have Mula Band which is known as root lock. And you can actually feel your chakras. Your chakras are a real thing, like they're part of your subtle body. You can feel them, you can contract them. I'll be as PG as I can. The root lock is when you contract the area between your downstairs parts and your butt. So right in the area in the middle down there, also known as the taint, we'll call it that. But yeah, that is the root. You contract that, and that is the root lock. And then what some people like to do in addition is called Uliana bond, which is where you combine the root lock, the navel, and the diaphragm. So you're kind of you're contracting your first, your second, and your third chakra during this lock. And this will also help get that energy in that cerebral spinal fluid up the column. And then you have Jalandhar bond, which is your throat lock. And that's where you kind of take your chin and you bring it to your chest. You can combine these locks too and get different effects during your Kriya sets and things like that. And then you have third eye lock, which is merely just focusing your eyes up at your Ajna chakra, your third eye point. And so this is one aspect I don't think they, like I said, it's not that it's devoid of it, the common yoga modalities. It is not as emphasized as it should be. And I think it's a really big key part to doing yoga that's being missed.
It sort of sounds like it's kind of like now I'm going to say the healthy fast food version versus the like 8-course meal kind of thing. Is that kind of like
So I mean, really, the best way I would describe it is if you're truly looking to develop yourself, not just physically, but spiritually as well. And if you would like to really, I mean, in all honesty, practically learn how to heal yourself and correct these energetic imbalances within yourself, I would definitely go for a more traditional type of yoga. Like I would definitely go for more of the Kriya or the Kundalini or Hatha too. Hatha is kind of a combination. It's like a halfway point. They will hold poses for like long periods of time, but they will also do Kriya in Hatha yoga as well. So like if you're just looking for like something to stay in shape and spiritual sustenance isn't really in your park, then yeah, go with the common yoga modalities. But I think really it's funny because like this is what we tend to do in the West. We tend to take what we think is the effective portion of something, and then we tend to cast everything else out of it, deeming it as unimportant because it's not the effective portion. But really, what might be there that they're missing is that these things that you're deeming ineffective or not the effective portions could have a synergistic effect with that effective portion that makes it even more so than it being on its own. I use this analogy with what we did with alcohol and cannabis and things like that. Like in the old days, alcohol was only 3% alcohol. It was made in nature, it's a natural process. And then man came along, I think it was the 1500s or the 1600s, and they're like, we need to concentrate what is in here and we need to make it stronger. And then you got the hard alcohol, kind of a similar thing with cannabis too. Like, in cannabis, you have all of these other cannabinoids that are synergistic with the THC that gives you your desired effect. But, the West is like, well, screw all those other things. Let's just take the THC out, magnify it. And then, now we have the increased infective compound. And this is just how we act. And we even do it with spiritual practices too. It's just it's a Western thing. And, I think we're starting to grow our way out of it though, thankfully.
it kind of looks that way. Like it just I kind of wonder if like that part was dropped because of the whole timing thing, because it sounds like like when you go to practice Kundalini yoga, it would serve you best if you're a lot more present. And
Hmm.
so you have a crazy schedule and you're running around like a headless chicken and you only have time to squeeze 20 minutes in, I could see how that form would not work for you.
Oh, I'll be with you on that. It is. It takes a very different level of focus. You have to be in it for it to really truly show its effects. It's very interesting to me. Spinja, I'll go along and even say that it's got to be some kind of form of spiritual technology. It has to be. This is just based on my own experiences. So I've embarked on we're actually coming up on a year of this now almost. I was saying 6 months. I looked back, it's been about 9 months now. I've been on my kundalini journey, and I'm going to tell you this, in these 9 months, I have gotten not only more healing done than I have in probably the past 5 or 6 years. Oh, yeah. I'm going to be 100% honest about that. I've learned to tap into uh, these altered states of consciousness that are usually produced by entheogens and psychedelic plants. I've learned to tap into it naturally now. And I think that is something that, a lot of us, we come to that point in our lives where, at least my spirit guides, my last heroic dose experience I had, they were like, it's time for you to learn how to do this on your own. And I was like, what? And they're like, don't worry, we got you. We're gonna show you the way. And I was like, all right, cool. So freaking and dude, then here I am now, doing Kundalini yoga, and I wholeheartedly feel this is if for me, at least for me, is the way for what I'm doing at this point in time. Yes. And I didn't get a chance to tell we were talking about it briefly. I had an out of body experience yesterday and this morning doing this certain Kriya set I'm doing. And this is just, I mean, a lot of people are wary of Kundalini yoga because they're like, oh, everybody says it's evil. It's like, no, it's not evil. It's not that it's evil. Okay. Like, trust me. It is because you're dealing with something that's very powerful and effective for what you're trying to achieve. And that is why a lot of people get kind of weird about it. But like I said, I've gotten more healing done in 9 months than I probably have in the past 5 years. I've learned how to tap into these states of consciousness. I broke through to this weird realm yesterday. It was so strange. It only lasted about 10 seconds. It was strange. But so I was doing, I got after done doing this one move, the spinal flex. And the spinal flex always does it to me. It's interesting. And I was holding my locks and I could feel the energy rising up. And then it got to my head. And then it's like I popped into this dimension for like 10 seconds. And I was like looking around and there was like this weird psychedelic like furniture. That was like the best way to describe it. And I remember I was looking, but then like I got sucked back because I started coming back in. And I remember I sit there and I like put my hands on the ground. I was like, oh my goodness, dude. I was like, that's a first. And I was like, holy crap. So, I mean, it's very powerful to achieve what you're looking for. And I think that's why it intimidates a lot of people.
That's really cool. And like the feeling that you were describing, I've actually it sounds very similar to what I achieved when I was doing my katas, because
Very
I
cool.
would I would get like I would barefoot on the grass, and I would just really get into it. So I like when you were describing that, it's like I understand that feeling. And I mean, I'm just doing this with karate katas. I could only imagine yeah, I want to try this because
Oh,
and
dude. Well, go ahead. Sorry, yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off.
well, no, there was actually a couple of things that Don wanted to mention. So yeah, Don's here off camera, but he likes to he's trying not to interject, but he just finds it quite curious that you did, like, you started your practice around the same time that he woke up.
That's interesting, man. The one thing I was gonna say before I get to Don's thing was, what's really interesting is like there's a lot of tie-in between the esoteric arts and martial arts.
Okay.
There's a huge tie-in. Yeah. So it would not surprise me if your katas are like almost like that version of that train of thought's kriya. Like it would not surprise me if that's what it was, because there's certain kriyas where you do dancing. There's certain kriyas where you do things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that could very well be some kind of tie in there. It could very well have the same capabilities as the Kriya Yoga, but in kind of a different format. And I would actually, after we get done, send me like some videos on that stuff. I'd love to do some
Okay.
research. Yeah, I'd love to do some research on that. And as far as for Don, Don and I, man, we might be the same soul living two parallel existences is looking like, man, because we got a lot of things in common. And I that's interesting to me. And I do like to say this, like, people like us, we're energetic light posts here. We are grounding the higher frequencies into this reality. And every time one of us improves, the collective starts to improve too. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm not saying this is the case, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Pretends my energy of some kind affected something in the collective, to which helped Don kind of come to fruition how he's doing. It's not out of the realm of possibility, and it's but no, that's very interesting. I know Don likes to do Wim Hof breath too, so like, and that's something else I do think is worth its weight in gold as well, for sure.
Um, okay, so that was okay. So I like see you made me get my notebooks.
I have a habit of doing that. I'm glad though. I'm glad you're learning, and I'm glad I'm learning, because now I want to know about the katas. I'm
Yeah.
very, very interested in that now. So yeah, yeah. It's that mutual reciprocation.
So the to the people that are watching and listening, I'm always joking with Steven that like his episodes are so good that I'll be sitting at my sewing machine. It's like, dude, you made me get my notebook because
Thank
I
you.
like it's so compelling that I like jot points down and then I come home and talk to Dawn about it.
Thank you guys. I know, and that makes me happy, because like, yeah, I want everybody to take a deeper look at things. I mean, it's and sometimes taking that deeper look is going within and understanding, like, I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to talk with Birch Driver yet. He's
No,
somebody
no.
I definitely recommend. Yeah, he does Green Knight podcast. He's been on Tinfoil Hat too with Sam, and he said a good saying, and I'll have to use it in his context so it makes sense. So he's kind of like, I'm beyond the point of reading. And now what he means by that is not like reading a book, like if he wants to read a novel of a story of some kind, but like when it comes to a lot of the different spiritual books, because he feels that he's learned more from going within than he has from a lot of these other spiritual books. And I kind of resonate with that statement. I myself, after a point, from going within and having these internal experiences, whether through meditation, kundalini yoga, or even psychedelic or entheogenic experiences, I have learned more from all of that, when I really look at it in the grand scheme of things, as opposed to a lot of these spiritual books. Now, don't get me wrong, the spiritual books laid down great guidelines and great foundations for me to be able to dig deeper and to go in deeper, when we're talking about the nature of existence and what the overall underlying true nature of human being and our divine nature is. But I think going within, man, and having and sitting there and going into your inner space, like, and those who have been to inner space know it's more vast than outer space. So there's a lot that you can learn there. So like, yeah, that's why I'm grateful you guys, break out your notebooks. I mean, I have my, just because we're talking here, I also have my notebook. So like, I totally feel you, and I get that, man. And but other than that, it's good because make me break out my notebook
Well,
sometimes.
that's
So
awesome.
it's reciprocation, man. Reciprocation for sure.
Um, so another question I was wondering, with like the things you were talking about with Kundalini yoga, is there like a practical part to it, or do you pick it up as you go? Like, is there like a special like is there like a book or a text that you're learning from, or is it just incorporated? Or
Yeah. So they have many different ones. I actually got one I can show you right here. So this one is actually the Kriya Guide by Yogi Bhajan himself. This is a good one to start with if you're looking to begin and try some of the beginner sets and kind of learn the beginning fundamentals of Kundalini yoga, but then you can kind of go beyond into the different Kriya yogas of the path, like from like Hatha and a lot of the other different yogic sects. As far as those direct texts, I have not gotten to that yet. But when I get to that direct text, I will let you guys know on where to learn all of that from because I'm still in my process with this too. But I recommend this guy. He's only $30 if there's something that, yeah, he's not expensive. So if you want to get him and start working with him, it's a really good way to learn the basics and the fundamentals of it. There is a pragmatic approach to it. There is a practical approach to it too. Aside from just energetically healing yourself and clearing your meridians and allowing your natural life force energy and your prana to flow in a more free fashion through your body, it mentally trains you. The Kriyas can be very vigorous. They can be very, very tedious. There's certain ones, man, that almost make me feel like I'm gonna jump out of my skin and crawl up a wall just because they're very tedious. And a good example of this, it might not seem that, is you're taking your fingers and you're touching each one at a time, saying a certain mantra like this. And the fingers
oh,
represent different things. Like you have, oh yeah, and they have one which is rewriting your brain, where for 10 minutes you have to take your hands and you have to slap your fingers into the palm of your hands. Oh, it doesn't seem like much, but do it for about a minute or two, and you'll start to see what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, you're gonna be like, "Holy crap, dude, what is happening to me?" Because it's like your ego's starting to break down. And that's kind of like it's almost like a natural form of ego death that a lot of people like start to experience from psychedelics. So this is like the more natural way to achieve it. It's not as, I guess you could say, not as prolific or profound as taking a psychedelic, but no, you will feel it, and like you'll feel your ego like start to combat with you over certain, kriyas that you do, and that's really where that mental aspect comes into it, man. And like, and I joke, I do my kriya in the morning, and then anything hard I face through the day is no longer hard anymore. It's literally true. There's mornings where I haven't had the chance or I haven't had the time to do Kriya, and the days have felt like a challenge. But for some reason, man, every time I get it in the morning, it just stretches my mind to the point where like I could walk into work dealing with 10 pounds of shit in a 5 pound bucket, and it will not phase me. So definitely that I would say is the practical approach is it will condition you for life. 100%.
that's the impression that I was getting, and it almost feels like you were mentioning about meridians, and like it got my attention because I really don't I know they exist. I know they're important. I don't know a whole lot about them yet. But it just seems like this form, um, it's inevitable that you're going to learn about your body, and you're going to like it all fits in. So it seems practical. Um, which brings up another question because I've started sniffing around qigong too,
Very cool.
and that's sort of like I'm seeing like I'm sure the exercises are completely different, but that's the part that I'm sort of noticing about qigong too, is that yes, you're doing the physical part, but there's also there's more to it.
Hmm.
And I just like this is really cool, and it's kind of making it a little challenging. It's like, okay, what road do I go down first, because both of them are Yeah, Dawn says put your hands together.
They complement each other, you know, like that's one thing
Okay.
too. Like, you know, I know I gave you guys kind of a rundown of what my daily thing is, but we'll do it again real quick just for like the listeners, and I'll talk about like the different aspects of why I do these things. And
Sure.
really, one thing you'll find about a lot of these practices, they work with the almost the very same systems that are just kind of almost have slight deviations due to philosophical deviation. So, like, I mean, you're working with the energy meridians in Kundalini Yoga, but you're also working with them in Qigong. You're just working with that aspect of your energy meridians. So like how I kind of do it, like I'm a little, you know, I have my own way of doing things. You guys don't have to do it the way I do it. You know, you can use what I do as a guideline and make your own out of it, whatever works for you. So I go by these processes. So I begin my mornings with physical training. And whether it's resistance training or boxing, I box. I don't do any traditional martial arts, but I would love to get into doing traditional martial arts. That's something I would like to get into. And so that really represents the process of calcination. Yes, there's a symbolic aspect to what I do too. So when we talk about calcination, it's the first step in spiritual alchemy. And what it is we're burning away the old product to make room for the creation of the new product, okay, or the new. We're burning away that lead so we can get ready of turning it into gold, turning our bodies into gold. So that's why I begin with physical training. And then because it burns off, you know, it can burn off the energies of the previous day. It can burn off the energies of a bad morning. Like it's good to do that. You know, and then I move into Kundalini Kriya Yoga. And what this does for me is this starts to awaken the higher frequencies within me. This starts to really lay down the foundation for cultivating my energy, for having it move efficiently through my meridians, and to potentially, you know, get my energy from my lower triangle up into my upper triangle. So that's one thing that's talked about in a lot of different yoga traditions. You have your lower triangle, which is your lower three chakras, and then you have your upper triangle, which is your upper four chakras. And that's where you want your energy to be very much so balanced. You want it really balanced between the two triangles, but you really want it to facilitate itself up into the upper triangles, because if your energy gets caught in your lower triangle a lot, you're going to kind of start caving way into physical things. We'll put it that way, you know, physical issues. And then after I, you know, do my Kundalini Kriya, I do Qigong sets. And what I feel the Qigong does is it amplifies all of the life force that I've just cultivated and all of the energy that I've just cultivated within me. And that way I move it through certain portions of my body and my being to where it needs to go. Like, you know, I've been having issues with a stubborn wrist lately, so it's been going there and things like that. And then I do breath work. You know, again, that prana, the more oxygen we intake, we're intaking more prana, which is the universal information. I mean, this is where all of this information, all of this stuff is coming from. And that's kind of what I do. And it's like, you know, the one thing I can recommend is give everything a try on its own first, see how you feel. You know what I mean? And experiment. Don't be afraid to mix and match things. I know a lot of people who will do sun salutes before they do qigong. I know a lot of people who will, you know, combine the aspects of both of them into maybe their own type of unique practice. I think one thing a lot of people do as humans is we get hyper fixated on the logistics and the very like fine details of certain things, when really we need to kind of circle back and understand that it's the intention behind it. And just because you're doing qigong after a kriya yoga set doesn't make anything ineffective, or it's not going to mess with anything. It's just what you choose to do. You feel that the synergy of these two practices, or these two forms of spiritual training, are benefiting you when you do them together as opposed to separately. And it's all about experimentation, honestly. It's all about just kind of diving in and just seeing what works for you.
Well, and from what you've been talking about, and then like the small amount of knowledge that I have about qigong, I can see how that would complicate things. It's almost like you're priming up the engine, and then and then the rest gets moving everything around. Is that
Exactly. No, that's a really good way to put it. You prime up the engine, and then once the engine is rolling at the RPMs it needs to be, and it's moving, and yeah, you start getting it all moved around. I mean, this is just ultimately what's worked for me. I know some people, and me too. Also too, like it's not that I am against stationary sitting meditation. I do it. I've noticed for a lot of people who have been diagnosed ADHD or ADD, or by the medical industrial complex, moving meditations just seem to be a better route for them, because essentially at that point you get 2 points of focus as opposed to one. And I've noticed that, when we're dealing with somebody who might have a hyperactive mind or whatever it is, the 1 point of focus just isn't enough. It can't do it. So that's why you give them 2 points. You're like, so I have to focus on my breath while I'm doing these movements. And then essentially what I've seen happen with that is the way for somebody like that to meditate. It just happens to work that way because you give them that 2 points of focus, and their hyperactive mind at that point, now that they're focusing on two things, I have to inhale while I do this and then exhale while I do that. That kind of clears the way. And that will help tame the monkey mind in those who are hyperactive. So like that's why if to all the listeners out there, if any of you guys have been diagnosed with that, or been said you have a hyperactive mind, try moving meditations. I guarantee you're going to find amazing results with those.
well, and I think and it's interesting that you bring this up because like in regards to meditation, like I have a hard time. I'll be honest, I have a hard time finding time to do it. And
Hmm.
so that's where I try to, like, I just incorporate it into my day to day. Like I just try to
Absolutely.
try to quiet my mind. And the moving part, like when I'm walking my dog, I am just like that's my time where my brain is where I need to be. um so that's like you were mentioning, like in regards to people that have been diagnosed. I'm also going to extend it to people that have anxiety and like
That's a good one
panic
too.
disorder and whatnot, because I've actually been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Yeah,
um yeah, so and it's
I know
it's
about
kind of
that.
interesting because now I'm going to preface this with, I am not anti-medication. It has its time and its place. This is not medical advice. If you're on medication and it's working for you, beautiful, because I do believe it does have its time and its place. For
Mhm.
me, I was at a place in my life where it was not helpful. They basically, when I was on medication initially, it did help level things out. I was having some really bad panic attacks and anxiety and stuff, so it did, but it got to the point where I was in an abusive relationship, and it kept me numb enough to endure it.
Mhm.
So I did go off of my medication when like when I found out I was when I was pregnant with my son 16 years ago. I'm like, I'm just going to suck it up because I don't want my, I didn't know he's my son at the time. I didn't want my baby to be subject to the medication. And I was also under the impression that, like I also had heard that sometimes pregnancy will help level stuff out. So I just wanted to give that a shot as well. So the good news is that I have not had to be on medication since. but they did try to put me on medication because that's what they like to do.
Oh, 100%. They
And
will they will try.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And so I told my doctor that I don't want to do it. I want like, is there anything that we can investigate? Because, I was doing therapy and taking care of things in that department. And so that's where she suggested I did this mindfulness meditation program. And it was in and like an it was for chronic pain, but it also helped that. But where I'm going with this is, thank goodness I was in the place that I was in, because the exercises that they were teaching us for meditation, you did have to sit still. And I was able to reel it in because of the place that I was in, but I also noticed a lot of my classmates were having a really, really hard time because of the places that they were in.
Mhm.
So, to those that are experiencing it, if your anxiety level is too high, don't give up. This is the part where you want to take into consideration the moving meditations, because
Oh,
it does give you
100%.
something. Yeah, yeah. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because it sucks.
Oh no, I'm with you. And you want to know what? So I actually I have a really so this if there is a stationary meditation that I would recommend for an anxiety attack outside of a moving meditation, I have a really good one. I'm going to tell you right now. And this has helped. Not only will this is another way to help people with hyperactive minds and anxiety meditate. This is a really good one to get your mind cleared fast. And so I've used this on first time meditators. I've used this with people with extreme anxiety. So in this case, you do sit down and you do start to breathe. And then what you start focusing on is, as you're breathing, you need to start focusing on how the breath feels coming in and out of your nose. So that's your first point of focus that you're going to do, because you can feel that as you breathe, you feel the air entering your nostrils and your lungs. And as you exhale, you feel it come out. So that's the first point of focus. And then as you start to implement that, then you start to imagine a lotus flower on your belly button. And every time you're breathing in and you're experiencing the air feels coming into your nostrils, that lotus flower is opening up. And every time you exhale, and as you feel the air come out, that lotus flower closes. And this is another way outside of a moving meditation to give somebody 2 points of focus, because the 2 points of focus for anxiety especially, I think, is the real thing. Because if somebody's in a very heightened state of anxiety, 1 point of focus is not going to be enough, because that 1 point of focus is going to not be significant enough, and it's going to keep pulling people back into the state of anxiety. And that's why I feel when you start adding those different points of focus, then you start taking the individual's hyperactive mind and you start assessing it in these certain areas of focus. And then what you'll notice is after about 2 minutes, they'll be like, "What was I so anxious about?" And that's basically, it's about taking that brain, and it's about taking your consciousness and stretching it, almost, is a really good way to put it. Because a lot of times when we're in that state of anxiety, our consciousness is like clumped into this one spot, and it's in that very uncomfortable space, and it wants to get out, and it's looking for anything it can to get out. But when you stretch it back out, almost, it helps alleviate that.
I love that. Thank you so much for that,
Yeah, no
because
problem, no problem.
yeah, yeah. I think that's very valuable, and I can see, like, having been there, I could see how that would work. And
Thanks.
that's something else I'm just going to throw out to the people that do experience this. And like, if it's to the point where it has you not wanting to do your practices, like if you're not feeling like you want to go to the gym, or you're not feeling like you want to do your yoga, I will share with you what my sensei said. Because when I was doing karate, I was at a pretty low point in my life. I was 260 pounds to begin with. I didn't let that stop me though. You know, I got some weird looks like, what are you doing karate? And I was like, no, I'm gonna push through. Had a lot of
Mhm.
stuff. You know, I was a single mom at the time, battling my ex in court and all that stuff. And it just, you know, there were some days where I just didn't want to do anything. And so my sensei said to me, he's like, just get here and just do it. And he said, once you get here, see how you feel. And he said, but I want to ask you a question. Have you ever come and worked out and not felt good afterwards? You got me there.
I love that. Your sensei is a wise
So
guy.
oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, the takeaway is like it might be hard to get there, but ask yourself, how do you feel afterwards? Because it helped, that helped me reframe things, and it just made it a little easier to stick to the practice. But I also
I
will
love
say,
that.
also be gentle with yourself because stuff happens too.
Oh, absolutely. And I really, I like how you put that because, there's, when we're talking about our spiritual evolution, a lot of our spiritual evolution falls into the physical aspects of self-betterment too. Like, I mean, I think they go hand in hand when we're talking about that. And, I, for one, I've had mornings or days where I've woken up, I'm not feeling too great. I'm not feeling 100%, or I didn't sleep that great, or things like that. But I get up and I do it, and I think that's really the best advice is just throw yourself in it.
Yeah,
Throw yourself in. I know it can be intimidating, but you are going to thank yourself and you're
yes,
going to look back after you do it and you're going to be like, wow, like I was right. I should have done that. And it was like, and I've seen that constantly too, even when I worked with people for the short period of time I did when it came to health and fitness, like, and even taking into account, like with what you said, like, yes, we have to know our bodies. Self-care, the definition of self-care changes as we grow. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And especially as we get older, self-care is an ever-changing thing for us. So, like, yes, there's some days I'll go into and I know, you know what, man, I can only give it 50, 60% today, but I'm here giving it 50, 60%.
yep.
And
You push through.
that is better than not being here and doing it at all, and that's where it kind of ties in. And yeah, just as you were saying, the same thing kind of even ties in with your spiritual practices and things that you're doing to help heal yourself, man. Like, I'm going to be taking on that really weird Kriya with the fingers after this. So I'm just like, after I'm done with this one. So I'm getting ready for that because I already know there's going to be moments where I'm just going to want to get up and be like, no, I can't do it anymore because it's just so weird. But, at the same time, you push through and like, sometimes the best things require effort in our lives. Like, there's that delayed gratification. And that's something that, on our spiritual evolution path, we are training ourselves to be more, I guess you could say, cultivating that delayed gratification as opposed to the instant gratification. And
Yeah,
that's why I think you hit it home, Spinja. I think, you just need to go. You need to go and you will
yeah.
feel better after you're done, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Is there anything else that you feel that ever like that they need to know in regards to Kundalini yoga?
So this is one thing I'll say to everybody. If you're looking to get into Kundalini or Kriya yoga, all right, I definitely recommend you work with an online teacher at least. Like the one I sent you, she's free. She will walk you. It's not that she's teaching you one-on-one per se. She does the videos and you follow along. But that's what I would recommend. So I'm gonna drop her name now. Her name is Yogi Gems. She's on YouTube. I think she does a phenomenal job of teaching beginners and intermediate Kriya yoga. And what I would do is follow along with that for about 2, 3 months, okay, and get used to how the Kriya sets are done, get used to the chakra locks, make sure you're doing that right. And then what I would do is if you want to branch off and grab this book and start doing like different, ones, try ones that maybe aren't in videos and things like that. Definitely you can move it to there. And then the other one I would say, because I'm in the midst of it right now, find a Kriya set that really resonates with you and give it a 40-day challenge. That would be the third thing I would say, because these Kriya sets do something. And the one that I'm doing for my subtle body right now, I can't describe it exactly in words, but it is doing something to my subtle body. We'll just put it that way. And it works. Yeah, no, thank you. And that's what I would say, honestly, man. And just experiment, experiment, look at every different thing, find things that work for you. I mean, whether or not you end up liking strictly Qigong or you don't like Qigong and you want to do Kundalini yoga, I mean, no path or no way is the wrong way in that context because it's whatever works for you.
No, I appreciate it. And yeah, and like I fully intend, like I want to find somebody to ask questions about Qigong as well, and just try to find out as many about as many different like exercises or modalities or whatever, so that like the people that are watching and listening, you've got like a variety to choose from where you want to focus. Because like I'm still asking questions too. I'm still, I've
Mhm.
and yeah, so no, that's amazing. So I think we should probably get wrapped up, but is there
Mhm.
anything else you would like to share? Are you working on some projects, or what's
So,
going on with
so,
you?
so one thing I've been reluctant to show a lot of people this, but I've been working on something. And you guys will be actually probably one of the first I've shown this to. So you guys, have gotten to know me a little. You know how like one of my things is figuring out the old lost organic, or now I guess it's called scalar technology, was is actually the right term for it. It's used interchangeably, organic scalar, because scalar technology is kind of above the technology that we have now. Organic tech, because it works with frequencies, it works with our environment in a different way than the typical synthetic tech. So what I have here, I need to complete it. So this is the king pyramid that I scaled down from the previous measurements. So I took the measurements from height to angle to base measurements, and I divided them by 1, 1, 1, 1. And this is the small scale. I got to finish soldering this guy, but instead of semiconductive materials like the original pyramids were built out of, this is superconductive material. So this is an actual like conductor. Don, come check it out, man, while we're here. This is a small, yeah, small king pyramid, man. So I just got to finish soldering it, but really one of my plans is I'm going to try to use it as an antenna potentially to harvest the natural ionospheric current of the earth. And also too, I want to compress resonance frequencies with it, because that's one thing that I think the pyramids, the Great Pyramid of Giza does, at least, is it compresses the resonance frequencies, or it elicits some kind of energy. Because if we look back in the day, the Nile used to flow right up on the pyramids. It was over time the Nile started to drift away. So, like, a lot of people talked about how they had floodgates that were below the King Pyramid, that they would open this up and they would compress the resonance frequency of the water entering in the running water, and it would generate currents. It would generate like a different currents. And there's also, too, Egypt is located directly on a fault line. When's the last time Egypt has had an earthquake? It's been quite some time. In fact, once the Great Pyramid was put there, there were no more earthquakes. So that makes that's also something we have to consider when we're talking about with these pyramids, is is it possible that they not only can generate, electrical currents, they can also stop earthquakes if you put them in major fault line areas? It makes you think like why hasn't California or why hasn't any of these places who have that has really bad earthquake activity thought about putting a pyramid somewhere there? Because potentially that might diffuse that energy. That might have something to do with it. So that's kind of what I'm in the works in, aside from my Kundalini yoga journey. And hopefully, I will be able to get this done at some point soon. And my plan is, if it works, of course, I'm not going public with it, but everybody who needs to know is going to know if it works because I can't disappear just yet. I have too much to do before I disappear. So that's exactly why.
That is super cool. And of course, yeah,
Thank you.
Dawn, yeah. Shout
Yeah,
out.
of course. Yeah. Of course, man. No, I wanted to show this to you guys. I haven't shown it to too many people, and the reason why is because I realize I'm playing with dangerous territory with it, because not because of what I'm doing, but if it works, what it's going to attract. And then that's where that starts to. So that's why I tell everybody, if it works, no, you will not see it on my show, but I will reach out to you individually and I will let you know that it works. So we can keep it all in the family and keep it under wraps.
Um, Same page. I've gotten some downloads about some things that work with magnets for free. So once I get
Yeah,
out to the farm and get that set up, I'll hook you up.
we'll have to set up a nerd session.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do an off-air conference call where we can discuss some ideas, most certainly. Because yeah, so there's another guy who I talked to. You guys might have saw him on Chris's show, but Duncan. Duncan was a guy who was on Chris's show. He was in one of the episodes in the past few months, but we've been chatting about this too. So I would definitely love to, maybe do like a three-way call or something like that, man. We can all sit down and talk about this stuff because oh yeah. I'm serious about it. It's something I've always been wanting to try and rediscover, man, because if we can get this in our back pocket, it's gonna make things a little bit better for everybody.
Mhm. Totally.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank
So,
you.
did you want to share with everybody where they can find you? Oh my goodness, this has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Anytime, Spinja, anytime. Yeah. So, guys, you can find me on the Forbidden Knowledge Network. You can find me at www.forbiddenknowledge.news. As you can find Don and Spinja there now as well. You guys definitely check out the documentaries. We have the Occult Louisiana Part 1, and then we have JFKX. Occult Louisiana is done by Chris Matthew. JFKX is done by Ryder Lee. So yeah, if there's anything any one of you guys can do for me is go give one of those a watch and help support them. And then also, guys, you can find me on Rumble and YouTube under BG Cast. You can find me on X because I do stream to X as well now, also under BG Cast. And you can find me on all other socials under that same name. And I want to say thank you so much, Donna Spinja, for having me on. I'm always happy to see you too. I'm always happy to chat with you too. And I look forward to seeing what your future endeavors on FKN is going to bring everybody, man. And I like you guys' style and what you're doing. And I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, well, let's put it it's a surprise to me too. I like none of what's happening right now. I certainly did not expect. So, and I got my 40th subscriber this week. So I
Very
want to
cool.
thank
Oh, yeah.
everybody that's popped on and hit the subscribe button. I'm not, and I try not to be that person because I don't want to, but I'm just going to throw it out there. If anybody wants to hit the subscribe button, I'm about 10 people away from being able to do live videos.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So
yeah,
that's,
man.
yeah, well, and
Definitely,
that's
definitely.
yeah, and I want to do that because I want to start having online crochet classes, you know, like having meetings and stuff so I can teach people and you know, like have it interactive. So yeah, I'm getting there. I'm going to be shooting my second crochet instructional video. We started out with the basics, so I'm going to start with part 2, and then eventually we're going to get into reading patterns, and then I'm going to do some basic knit stitches too. So um and yeah, no, that's just the intention there is to just contribute to creativity. It's been, you know, like for me, it's been stress relief, but it's also, you know, like I'm thinking about, you know, like there's stay-at-home parents. Like it's a great way to supplement income, you know, things like that too. So I just want to like help people expand and but yeah, anyway, that's about it for this edition of Surviving with Spinja. I just want to thank everybody again, and thank you again, Stephen. I love you all, and we'll see you again.
Have a good day, everybody. Take care.